Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salam ala rasulillah. This is the Islamic Seminary of America's TISA Talks. This is actually the ninth in a series of webinars that you can find on our YouTube channel. My name is Jimmy E. Jones. I am the Executive Vice President of the Islamic Seminary of America. I'd like to welcome you to a very, very special webinar today that goes with our grand vision. Any organization that's worth its salt has a grand vision of what it's about. One of the things we're about is changing the narrative about religion and Islam in the public square, changing the narrative about religion and Islam in the public square. That is to say, that at least what I see, I don't know about you, I see a lot of negativity about both in the public square. And that one of the things that we've tried to do and talked about doing is helping that. And one of the ways we help that is trying to partner with other institutions who have other faith traditions. And so you're gonna hear quite a bit about that tonight. But before we start that, I always start with a little commercial about what we're doing. And the big thing for the last few webinars we've been talking about is the Center for Ethical and Effective Organizational Leadership. We are very aware that what's going on in this country right now is hitting organizations very, very hard. It's hitting leaders of faith very, very hard. And so we conceive the Center for Ethical and Effective Organizational Leadership as an aside to the degrees that we grant, as an aside to the certificates that we grant, as an opportunity for us to bring in people who have been buffeted by the pandemic and the racial roiling in the streets in the United States of America, and talk about some of these issues through something called the post-pandemic professional and organizational workshops, the first of which we're planning to have in this building. We know we don't have own the whole building yet. We have a small part of the second floor in the building that you're looking at. But those workshops will be on a weekend of mid-October, inshallah, God willing, as we Muslims say, here at this facility, where we'll be looking at issues like mental health strategies for individuals, as well as for organizations, given the stress that people are under because of what we're going through, both in the street and with the pandemic. And also we'll look at the power of prejudice, because as you might have noticed that race has come to the forefront as an issue in the society, and therefore people of faith ought to think about how you handle this. And then the next day, on the Saturday of that weekend, we'll be taking a look at crisis management from both the Muslim perspective and from contemporary. We like to think of our institution as both classic and contemporary. Classic in the sense that our faculty are pretty much trained in classical sources, but also know something about contemporary issues and contemporary developments in terms of leadership. And then we'll end it up on Sunday morning with helping people think about personal development plans, helping people think about organizational development plans that they can take home. And we're planning to give them a little grant to go along with that, inshallah, God willing. So we don't know whether that's gonna be, we're like the rest of you out there, we don't know whether that's gonna be in person or by another Zoom meeting. We'll know when we get closer to it. So tonight we're gonna talk about a joint Masters of Divinity and Interreligious Chaplaincy with the Islamic focus with the United Theological Seminary, Twin Cities. It's, mashallah, it's the first day of Muharram for Muslims who are keeping up with our calendar. We should keep up with our calendar. This is the first month of the Muslim calendar. And there are all kinds of reasons why we should, not the least of which is that there are all kinds of lessons and benefits from praying in the middle of a Muslim month, for instance, and there are other benefits to go along with it. Because we're a community that has our own tradition, doesn't mean we can get rid of the Gregorian calendar. It's just that we remember our own calendar, and that we always start with Quran. We're trying to be amongst that band of people who invite all to all that is good and joining what is right and forbidding what is wrong. That's the ethos that we work out of. And here are pictures of people that you see in our respective Zoom rooms. Dr. Tamara Gray, who is on our faculty and our academic council, Dr. Kyle Roberts, who's vice president and dean at United Theological Seminary, and myself, the executive vice president. And this is what you're logged on to. And there are the titles again. We are co-sponsored by the Association of Muslim Chaplains, United Muslim Relief, the Muslim Endorsement Council, and the Rabata, and of course United. And I'm looking at the logos and trying to remember names all the time. I don't remember all the time. But these are all of our co-sponsors. These are people who are partnered with us in one way or another, just like United does as well. So what we're going to do is look at the major information having to do with the joint MDiv and interreligious chaplaincy and Islamic focus. And I'm going to talk about it for a little bit, and then we're going to talk to both our guests. One of the reasons that Dr. Gray is with us, aside from being one of our faculty and also on the academic council, she's the person who introduced us to Dr. Kyle. And the rest, as they say, is history. And this happened fairly quickly. It's less than 6 months actually, this happened. And so that's one reason that she's here. So she knows a good deal about this project, is having also been a guest over at United. So the total credits, like many MDivs, I think the minimum is 72 credits. The format is online at, and Dr. Kyle can talk about this. At United, I think you can take all degrees online. He can correct me when he gets a chance to talk, or in person. Most courses, our courses are hybrid, but for this particular degree, a person could go through and take the coursework all online, as this is a United degree. Therefore, the degree is conferred by United Theological Seminary, and classes are set to begin in the spring term of January 2021. If you want to apply, the place to go is to the Islamic Seminary of America website, islamicseminary.us, and you hit application. And the process is that you fill out that application. We have an admissions process, fairly brief, and then we pass it on to the admissions folks at United, and they pass on it, and then that's how you get in. If you want more details, you can go to either website. You take your choice, either the TISA website. That's the one that goes to the joint degree. That's the link. And United also has a joint degree page. And so, so you can take those down and take a look. So what are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about a 72 credit degree. And again, Dr. Roberts can talk more about it, because really the difference between this degree, and we have a master's divinity degree, is the focus. This has two areas of focus. One is interreligious, and the other is the Islam focus. The interreligious focus is the major part of this degree, as you shall see. So the first part, in terms of learning outcomes that come from United, are 4 courses in religious texts. Hebrew Bible 1 is one of them. And then either New Testament 1 or New Testament 2. And then because it's Islamic focus, advanced Quranic sciences and tafsir, and advanced hadith sciences and hadith commentary. The second area is theological tradition. And again, rather than looking at the Christian or interfaith tradition, we look at the Muslim tradition. And what you're seeing in the last 2 courses in the first category, and these 4 courses, are the core Islamic focus courses. There's going to be some other Islamic learning in the program, but this is the core of these 6 courses. So the courses in theological tradition or advanced Sirah, which is the biography of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the evolution of Islamic law and usul of fiqh, the advanced akhlaq and spirituality within the Islamic tradition, and Islam in America, which attempts to look at the broad theological traditions that make up the mosaic that are Muslims in America right now. So the next session deals with ethics and justice, and there's a comparative religious ethics that originates from United, a theology for social transformation that also originates from United. And then there's formation, something that we don't have in this way in the Islamic tradition. There's no, at least maybe Dr. Gray can talk about that, formation. I happen to have graduated from 2 seminaries, Christian seminaries, so I've heard it before. There's a lot of talk about how one approaches their faith in terms of developing themselves as a religious leader. And I'm sure we have it some way, but we don't formalize it. I don't think Dr. Gray can help me because she's been more classically trained than I have in Islamic sciences. But formation is a part of this degree. So there's introduction to spiritual and personal formation, organizational leadership and administration is part of it. And then there's cultural contextualization, and world religions is the course that everyone must take in order to do that. The next part is arts and theology, which is a emphasis at United, and you have to choose one of the 2 courses, history of arts and theology, or art, religion, and contemporary culture. And then there's social transformation again, leadership and strategies for social change. There's integration, the capstone course that we're talking about being co-taught in this particular concentration by somebody from our faculty. And so the course subtotal is 16 courses. And then vocational contextualization and skills. There's an intro to pastoral and spiritual care, preaching and your public voice, interreligious spiritual care, intercultural chaplaincy, trauma, suffering, and care, and one elected either clinical pastoral education or a ministry practicum that would be Islamically focused. So what we're talking about here is this contextualization having 8 courses, right? And the degree total would be 24 courses, with 6 of them coming from the Islamic Seminary in America. So remember I said there's some other Islamically focused requirements in this degree, and there are 2 that have to do with Arabic and Quran. In order to graduate this MDiv, similar to graduating with the Master of Divinity at the Islamic Seminary, where most of the courses are in Islamic studies, unlike this course, you have to obtain a passing grade of Fawaqih, which is one of our partner organizations in Arabic at level 4. And this is an assessment that you can take for free, and you do not have to take your Arabic with them. You just have to pass their Quranic Arabic. And we're not looking for people to speak Arabic fluently. We're looking for people to access the text. In other words, be able to access the text with a dictionary and make sense of it without struggling. And the other part is 1 juz, 1/30th of the Quran has to be memorized with tajweed, which is the science of Islamic of recitation of the Quran. So there you have it, that's the degree. Again, we're trying to be amongst those who rise out of a band of people, inviting to all that is good and enjoying what's right, and that we try to do this through our joint efforts. And want to remind you, a little commercial at the end, that this fall, we're starting this weekend, actually we're starting tomorrow, Advanced Hadith Sciences and Hadith Commentary is being taught by Drs. Jonathan Brown and Dr. Yasser Qadi, which is a part of the joint degree with United. Islam in America, which has been taught by Attorney Rula Alouche from CARE, the chair of the National Care Board, Imam Hamza Abdul Malik, who's an imam in Memphis, Tennessee, and also runs a school for young Muslims. And myself, we're co-teaching Islam in America. These courses are both in the joint degree, and they will be they'll be taught this weekend. And also in our September weekend, mid-September, Fiqh al-Muamalat, Marriage, Divorce, Inheritance, Economic Transactions with Imam Rafa Arafin, who happens to be a lawyer. We have a couple of lawyers teaching this semester, but he's also an imam. And Ubaidullah Evans, who graduated from Al-Azhar, who's a teacher at Alam, resident scholar at Alam. Some of you may know this, and a very dynamic teacher. And then there's a Principles of Fundraising course that rounds it out with Dr. Sharik, Siddiqui, who's also a lawyer. We had 3 lawyers teaching. I hadn't noticed that before. He's a lawyer and a PhD, and especially his fundraising. And if you do this course, and there are only 10 seats in this course, you'll get a certificate in fundraising from the Lilly School at Indiana University. Again, if you look at these 4 courses, you'll see what I mean when I say we have the classical, primarily the first 2 or 2.5, right? Very classical, very rooted in our usul, our roots. And then the fiqh al-muamalat, of course, is rooted in our usul, but you have a lawyer, a lawyer who handles contemporary cases of divorce. And so it bridges between the classical and the contemporary. And then principles of fundraising is more focused on the contemporary. So that's how we do it. And you'll also notice that a lot of our courses are team taught. We're trying to get away from the model in the Muslim community of one person knowing it all. And the synergy that you get from team teaching, I've enjoyed it. And I think Dr. Gray can attest to it as well. When you have people with different skills and bring different interests to the table, that's what makes institutions go. So if you want to join us, you have to apply to be in these courses or to either be a regular student or an auditor. And it's okay. And so say farewell to 1441. We did that already. And I think really the link is up there to still donate because we're always raising money. So we try to bring stronger leaders for stronger communities, rebuilding for a better world through our Center for Ethical Organizational Leadership. I think that's the last one. Oh, right. For more TISA talks, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Islamic Seminary of America. You'll find the other 8, this is the 9th one, TISA talks, and some other videos that we've done. If you want to find out more about us, more about our courses, and usually they either handle hot topics like the Black Lives Matter, or they handle specific courses that we're teaching. So if you're interested in the more contemporary, it's there. Interested specifically in learn something about us, it's there. So that's so much for the commercial. So Ibrahim, you can take that down. So why don't we turn to our guest, Dr. Kyle Roberts, who's the Vice President at United Theological Seminary, and Dr. Tamara Gray, who is the spiritual leader and the founder of Rabata. Why, organizations like individuals have self-interest. What's in it for TISA? What's in it for United Theological Seminary? Because it is a bit of a stretch, given at least how Christianity and Islam are seen in the public square, for a Christian and Muslim organization, institution of higher learning, to be working together at this level. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I think, first of all, thank you for that great introduction and to the program. I was getting excited. I'm going to teach it, and I thought, I'm going to register and teach. Mashallah. I think that there are just so many reasons for a Muslim seminary to partner with a Christian seminary from that Muslim perspective. And 2 that are just on my mind right now are, the first one is that the normalization of Muslims as people who follow an Abrahamic path is something that happens when Christians and Muslims study together. And we learn how to respect each other, and we learn how to work together toward our common goals of goodness. When we meet each other in class, become colleagues in class, and recognize that we're citizens together in this state, country, city, wherever we happen to be. And when we recognize that as people of faith, we have the same hopes and dreams for this life and the next life, we will be able to make real change. And the second thing I would say that I've been thinking about a lot lately is that we are in a unique time because of the pandemic. Across the world and across faiths, people are returning to ask questions about their faith. They're returning to think about, wait a minute, this is something I wasn't thinking about before. I don't know if that's because life has slowed down or if it's the pandemic itself, but statistically, the percentages of people returning to seek guidance from their religious institutions is on an upswing. And so this is a really important time to be ready to graduate people who are ready to be in that space of caring and chaplaincy and guidance and leadership so that when we get out on the other side of this pandemic, we're really ready to walk together on a path of health, spiritual, emotional, intellectual health together.
Dr. Roberts.
Yeah, that's very well said, Dr. Gray, and agree. I'll just to speak from United's perspective in particular. United has been and went from its very formation was begun intentionally to be an ecumenical Christian seminary, and it always had that ecumenical across divides, across difference, um, originally within the Christian spectrum and Protestant even frame of that. So that's been in our DNA to be inclusive, to be welcoming of difference. And I'd say over the last number of years, that ecumenism, that inclusivity has expanded to include an interreligious element and an interreligious desire and drive within our community. Different students representing different religions, and often are drawn to us because of our interreligious chaplaincy program in particular. But United has had students who identify as Buddhist, as Baha'i, as Jewish, any number of religions that you can imagine. We've had Muslim students in the past as well, and I think that our students really, as a student body, crave interreligious dialogue and conversation and community. And that's just an exciting part, I think, of theological and religious education, and so important for training students to be spiritual caregivers, to be prophets, to be nonprofit leaders through the lens of faith and spirituality that our world so desperately needs. So if this partnership can enable United, from our end of things, to be better equipped and to better prepare our students for that, for those really important, crucial tasks in our society, we're all for it, and that's what's so exciting about it to us.
You know, can I tell a story, Dr. Jones?
Sure.
I first understood the real interreligious purpose of the United Theological Seminary when one of your students contacted me. He was not a Muslim, he was Christian, but he was getting a degree in chaplaincy, and he contacted me as part of his internship to work with me as his, I don't remember, there was a term for it now, but some kind of mentor thing.
Mentor, yeah.
Yeah. To work with him in becoming a better chaplain. And I remember thinking, wow, that the seminary has encouraged him to reach across religious walls, if you will, to learn more. And his intentions at that point too were just really fabulous in his desire to reach out to all people. He wanted to be a hospital chaplain. I was really impressed, and that is one of the things that made me really interested in this, in your seminary, in United Seminary Theological in the first place. So it's great, as a great history of this. Yeah.
I'm going to push back a little bit because my last two graduate degrees were at seminaries, and they were small. I mean, and they weren't small institutions. Well, Yale Divinity School was, world-class institution, all that. And there weren't a lot of people there. And Hartford Seminary was even smaller. My classes had 2 and 3 people. And in my position as executive vice president, I help with recruitment. Sometimes I feel like I'm dragging people into the seminary. And what I mean by pushing back is that, sure, I think maybe the 3 of us think there's a need out there for people to talk. But I don't feel that in the broader society, number one. And number two, young people come into institutions of higher education wanting to know what's the end game. And I want to tell you from the Muslim perspective, let's be honest, there are not a lot of good jobs out there. I mean, you can count the good ones on one hand or maybe 2. And it's not only that there are not a lot of good jobs, is that at least my sense of it, I'm washing dirty laundry here, is that religious leaders take a good deal of verbal abuse sometimes, sometimes rightfully, sometimes wrong. But my point is that this all sounds good, what the 2 of you said, But at the end of the day, I don't see that rush for, how shall we say, the best, the brightest, the most intense about social change necessarily kicking in our doors.
No, you're wrong, Dr. Jones. It's all changing now. That's the thing. We're cutting edge.
Okay.
We're standing at the edge of change. I really believe that. I really believe we're standing at the edge of change. I think I certainly understand what you're talking about in the Muslim community as far as tiny nonprofits, tiny budgets in mosques, these kinds of things. But even this has changed. We're getting smarter and we're growing up, and our community is improving the number of employees. Last week, I saw 6 jobs open up in 4 different nonprofits that are serving the Muslim community. And I really think these options are opening up, and I think that it's going to, the cutting edge aspect of that is the change we're going to see after the pandemic, which is that people's spiritual lives are going to matter to them in ways they haven't for decades. And at that point, those few who saw that, who had that vision, who understood what was coming, and were able to prepare themselves to be ready to take in those jobs are going to be at the top of all the lists of possible employees for different places.
Dr. Roberts.
I like that. I, I think that being on the precipice and the cutting edge of trailblazing is really where United's been for really all of our history. And we're small, we're agile, we're nimble and resilient. And I think our students feel that and kind of get energy from that. And we have students who are active in protests and marches. Of course, Minneapolis was a center of social justice activity, right, this summer. And I think seeing that social, really a deep calling out and crying out for people who can lead us forward as a society, as a community. That doesn't mean we have to put aside or undermine even our religious theological differences, but in the acknowledging those differences in the midst of those differences, but still being able to see what's common and what's true in our humanity, is a powerful thing. And I do think that there's going to be a place for people who have those skills, who have those passions in this next stage of the society that we really need to rebuild in many ways, right? And I think it's an exciting prospect to be kind of on the edge of that, have a little bit, as we say in drawing from Christian New Testament language, a parable of what could be, right? A symbol of a larger reality that could break forth. And I think, to me, that the partnership that we've developed here is emblematic of those possibilities.
Yeah, well, I'm going to push back just a little bit more, then we move on. So, but why not just take a PhD in sociology, right? Get a MSW in social work, because a lot of this you're talking about, improving society. What makes how should you say, the going into religious study worth it? Because it's very different from a sociology or social work. And the benefits are not always apparent when you're doing it.
Yeah. I notice that in our panelists is the leader of our social transformation program, Dr. Justin Saviatanis. And we have at United a degree that's really geared toward training leaders of nonprofit organization, not exclusively. They can be pastors and ministers and faith leaders, churches and congregations. But so why not just go to a business school and learn those same principles of sort of change agency? But our students really do, the ones who come to us because they see faith and religion and spirituality as motivators for that work, and as really compelling and motivating the change, the kind of hard change work that they want to do. That there's really power. There's power in leveraging, so to speak, our faith and spirituality and all of its different forms
Mhm.
and across lines to bring about social change. We see it in history that very often it's really deeply religious people who are the most impactful at moving things forward. And maybe not making the most money, if that's the goal, but as far as creating meaningful and lasting change in the world, um, I think it's a powerful force for good, and we can leverage and utilize and fertilize that in the seminary context.
You want to add, Dr. Gray? Should I move on?
I mean, I can always add to everything. I can keep on talking for an hour. Why don't you go on to your whatever else you want to talk about, though? I think
So,
we've changed your mind.
right.
Converted you. We have converted you.
Right. Yeah. Institutionally speaking, how does your institution make a difference? Why does it exist? I mean, I know United's been around for a little while longer, and TISA is just finishing. We're literally just finished the first year and starting the second year. But sometimes do you want looking around you? Do you really wonder whether this is the kind of institution that needs to exist at this point in time? I know it overlaps a little bit with what we're talking about, but it's a reasonable question to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in since Tisa is the baby here.
Mhm.
I think that it is not only a reasonable question to ask, it gets right back at what I was saying earlier, which is that this is absolutely the time for this kind of institution. I would venture to say that TISA didn't know that when TISA started, that this was something that happened. What I mean by didn't know that this was as important of a time as it is. And because the format of Islamic Seminary of America is to bring together classical learning, serious classical learning with modern methodologies and modern ways of thinking. And then I would say, in addition, with this partnership, making sure that it's very practical to daily life and how are these things being applied in social justice, in my job, in my life. This is exactly the kind of institution that's necessary today. And I would say we don't know yet how important it is. But 5-10 years down the line, we're going to look back and say, wow, we were guided to this and we weren't aware at how important it was going to be.
Kyle, you want to say something about United?
Yeah, United exists to educate and form spiritual and faith leaders to be compassionate and innovative. That's straight out of our mission statement.
Yeah.
Innovative, compassionate.
Always good for the vice president to know this.
That's right. That's right. I checked it before this meeting. But really to make a difference in the world, and whether that's in the congregational church context or the broader society and nonprofit leadership, chaplaincy, which as we mentioned has been a major emphasis of United and really draw for students, or occasionally the academy too, right? I mean, that's still an important path for some of our students, not the majority. But we do that kind of transformational education with the classical core, the text, the theology, the rich traditions and history, a critical reflection on religion, the analysis of culture, and the arts is an important piece of kind of how United looks at faith and the world. But ultimately, it is all for that practical. As Dr. Gray said, it's for that practical payoff. It's for the practical ability to actually demonstrate how that learning and those traditions can translate to real life impact, real world change.
Okay. So some of us haven't forgotten about the Crusades and colonialism, which often was led by the Bible, and 9/11, right? 9/11 is a sore point in this country right now. I mean, to a large extent, what's going on politically in this country as we speak is largely framed by 9/11, in my view. as I listen to the narratives that are going on. Can Muslims and Christians really trust each other with this kind of stuff in the background, right? I mean, this is real stuff. I mean, there's real enmity. There are movements of telling people to be afraid, for you to be afraid of one another for different reasons. What do you think?
It's a big question, isn't it? And at United, we are certainly aware of the history of Christian supremacy, the history of violence in the name of religion, and the name of Christianity, in the name of the Bible or interpretations of the Bible. That's all there, and it's all things that we're conscious and cognizant of, and aware that we need to repent of as a society, as a Christian, those who are Christian, who identify as Christian, to be aware of that. And the Christian language of repentance is a turning away. It's a turning around, and it's going the other direction. And so we want to go that other direction, away from Christian supremacy and triumphalism. And
the language in Islam is very similar, by the way, to Wahab, right? Turning back.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
But it's not only historical, right?
Yeah.
These are real issues as we speak. The notion of violence coming from Islam, the notion of violence, white supremacist groups who are more active than Islamic supremacist group in this country. It seems that some authorities don't know it, but this is a real thing right now. There are groups of Muslims, there are groups of Christians who are living, breathing right now, who think about doing violence to people from the other group. And so we're not just talking about history here.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry to jump in, but that's why we need a program like this. That's the exact reason, because you can talk a lot. We can all talk about how we love each other and talk about how that's wrong and talk about how that shouldn't be. But when we are studying together, becoming friends, working together, creating futures together, planning together, learning, complaining about an exam together, what have you, that changes the dynamic. And it is in that change of the dynamic that fringe attitude is challenged. And it's challenged. The people at the fringe aren't challenged, but the people watching that fringe and believing in it are challenged, because now they have something else to look at. And that's what is so critical and crucial about this work.
It's really an opportunity to demonstrate another way to be, and that's sort of starting with ourselves as a real experience, a lived experience in the classroom, and co-teaching. I teach a capstone seminar at United, and I've talked with you, Jimmy, how amazing would that be to co-teach a capstone seminar in a seminary program at the end of this shared degree, or with Dr. Gray. I think that would be a powerful visual and experiential demonstration of what this world could look like if we're able to put aside those biases and untested assumptions, and really make an effort to get to know one another and to work with one another and to pray with one another. Is that possible?
But how do you keep, I'm sort of a little bit of a naysayer, how do you keep it from becoming just a kumbaya moment? I taught a course on the crisis in the Middle East with a Zionist a few years back. And I want to tell you, it was, I thought the students were scared because we often disagreed. You might think we often disagreed, not because one of us was Muslim, one of us was Jewish. I don't think. It's because we had strong feelings about how should we say, the rightness and wrongness of the causes, right? Pretty strong feeling. I remember one time we were talking about, this is years ago, withdrawal from Gaza. And I don't want to bring the Middle East in this, given what's happening these days. But my point is that one time the interaction between us was so tense. One of the students got up and says, "Can we get a hug?" I said, "No." But my point about this is that I think the value of this kind of partnership is how you rub each other the wrong way sometimes, if you know what I mean. Instead of, yeah, of course, there were commonalities between this other professor and myself because we had interest in people learning about truth and justice and all that kind of stuff. But when you drill down, there were some differences. And so how do you keep it from being sort of a kumbaya, can't we all get along? And then we go out, there's a different narrative in the street.
There's a Christian theologian who used a phrase once about kind of describing the pluralistic educational setting, a school, as communities of argument or a community of arguments. And I forget which exact term it was. So yeah, it's not as if you don't talk about what's different. It's not as if you don't talk about different perspectives, different beliefs on some really hard topics. But learning to do that, practicing the doing of that with those edges bumping up, but respectfully. And I think that's where seminary education is so unique, where theological education is so unique, is that you get to practice having those arguments, those discussions, hopefully in a respectful, learning the skills of communication that can allow you to hold empathy for the other's position, all those good things. But yeah, it doesn't mean that the differences are just set aside or minimized so that you don't have conflict. Like any good relationship, you have to have conflict for it to be a real meaningful relationship. But
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I'd like to add to that two things. One is that Islamically, we have a real tradition of discussion, and many people would say discussion and debate, actual debate, where there's a real sort of heated back and forth. It is not emotional, but is heated in its intensity of learning through that discussion. So I would say that the Muslim tradition doesn't shy away from such rich discussions. And I would also say that TISA is really blessed and lucky to be working with an organization that has a history of ecumenical work, because that means that there's a tradition, a culture, and and a lot of experience in these kinds of discussions. We're not collaborating with a few people who it's going to be totally new to have anyone who's not Presbyterian, for example, in the classroom. This is an organization that, as I said earlier, reached out to me as a Muslim local leader to be a mentor for a Christian who wanted to be an interreligious chaplain. So I think we've got the right elements here to make this work really well.
Yeah, we're going to remind our audience that we'll take your questions. I already see some up there in the next 2 or 3 minutes. But let me ask one more question before we switch to you. Won't this partnership upset, here I go again, won't this partnership upset some of your key stakeholders? Like, aren't there people in your universe, your respective universes, people who give money to you, people in the Muslim community, in the Christian community, who might look up and say, wow, that's not what I think, either an alum or major donor. They might look up and say, wow, that's not what I thought a Christian seminary should be doing, or that's not what I thought a Muslim seminary should be doing.
For us, no, I really don't think so. We've communicated to our trustees. I had a meeting with a group of trustees today, and we talked about it. Everyone's just excited about it that I talked to. I suppose maybe there are maybe some who, some of our constituents who are surprised or what's going on with it, what's up with that. But really, I really don't think so. I mean, those who are supportive of United's mission and of United's identity as being this community of inclusivity and ability to cross difference, including religious difference, I really think it's been received very, very positively. and we'll see where the edges are as we live into this. I'm sure there will be some and some conversations that come up, but I think a lot what I feel now is a lot of enthusiasm and excitement for it.
Dr. Gray?
Yeah, I think like I just don't see. Okay, I imagine that historically the answer to you would be yes. There will be people who are taken aback by such a collaboration. But I really think that as a community, we've matured a lot in the past. I mean, I've been back in the United States now for 7 years, and I personally believe I've seen a drastic maturation, if you will, in those 7 years.
Mm.
So I really think, well, certainly you might have the outlying whiners, but in general, I really think that people are beginning to understand not that this is just something, okay, that's all right. No, but that this is something wonderful. This is exactly what we need to move forward in the positive ways that everyone is craving to move forward in. Everyone is thirsty. Everyone wants that positive experience across the board. And we certainly want to be preparing young Muslims to live well in this life and live in places that are places of service, having had a great education, knowing how to interact with everyone who's there. So, no, I think I think quite the opposite. I think we're going to have donors because of work like this. Donors who are going to say, oh my God, finally, cutting edge, breath of fresh air. This is what we need. Where can I put my money? I have a whole bunch I want to give you.
I hope so. All right, let's take one of the questions from our audience. Let me, Dr. Roberts, what would be, no, I'm sorry, is the program accredited? You would know about the accreditation sort of stuff, so talk about that.
Yeah, the program it's one of United's programs. So we have an MDiv in interreligious chaplaincy, which we've had for 4 or 5 years. So this is an MDiv in interreligious chaplaincy with an Islamic focus. So it's a United degree shared with TISA, utilizing TISA resources and TISA courses within the framework of a United degree. So it's a fully accredited degree, accredited by HLC, Higher Learning Commission, and ATS, Association of Theological Schools. So regional and national accreditation, one of our programs, so it falls under our accreditation. And as we worked out the partnership, we attended to those concerns and those elements to make sure that everything that we did and the courses that we've included, the course descriptions and all of that aligns with our kind of all of the expectations that go along with accreditation standards for assessment and so forth.
Yeah, I think the next question would be directed to you, Dr. Gray. The question is, so what's the difference between this degree and the degree, I know you're on the curriculum committee, well, the academic council, what's the difference between this degree and the Master of Divinity degree that you offer at TISA, that we offer? Yeah.
Every degree that one would apply for is going to be rooted in the curriculum that has been built for it.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference between these two degrees is in that course list. And so the emphases in those different, in the degrees is based in the course lists. But I would say both degrees have the similar philosophical emphasis of growth and leadership and change. So a student needs to look at the programs individually and look at the course list and say to herself or himself, okay, it's this series of courses that I'm really interested in. This is what I would like to pursue, or it's this one. And that's going to be a really individual choice, I think, for the student and the student's vision of what it means for them to have a master's degree in this type of field.
Mm-hmm. So a related question that another person watching asked, so what are the benefits of getting the MDiv at Union versus the MDiv at TISA? What's is there a certain type of student who would be interested in the MDiv, the joint MDiv versus the one that was described at TISA, which has more of an Islamic focus? That's
Yeah, I mean, the difference is, I would say, I guess my advice would be that someone without a whole bunch of Islamic background might want to really focus on the one that's purely at TISA because they're going to fill in the gaps. Someone who's coming at this with already quite a bit of basic Islamic knowledge may want to be filling in their gaps in the other topics that are mentioned in this particular degree. So again, it's very student oriented. It's very student specific. Also, where do you want to be at the end of that? What do you want your expertise level to be?
You have any thoughts on that, Kyle?
Yeah, no, I think I think that's really, really well put. It's where does the individual student really want uh, to invest their time and energy at United? The context, the community would be a diverse community religiously, but primarily Christian identifying. And so, that's a consideration. You're going to be in classes at United, not the TISA classes, but the United classes on that list, with hopefully a good cohort of Muslim students through TISA, but also many other students as well. And so that's a part of the dynamic to just be aware of and think about, and taking courses from professors who were trained in Christian institutions, Christian seminaries, and not only Christian seminaries or institutions, universities as well, divinity schools, but who primarily identify from the Christian tradition. But we also are looking forward to having people like Dr. Gray teaching courses, United courses that are not in the TISA program, but are for the United community more broadly, hopefully, and perhaps Dr. Jimmy Jones as well. And so just kind of building on that relationship to continue to expand and enrich who we are. But really, I think you answered the question well. It's where does the student see themselves in community, and where do they see themselves after they're done?
Follow up to that, one viewer asked, will students in the joint degree be required to take New Testament or exegesis? Exegesis is a new word for Muslims. It's more closely aligned with tafsir, right? The tafsir would be the more closely aligned interpretation of the text. So they may have missed the beginning, but why don't you talk a little bit about that, Dr. Roberts?
Yeah, so we have in the religious text category in our MDiv, there are 4 religious text courses that are required. In the joint degree, 2 of them are from United. So one Hebrew Bible or Old Testament, otherwise known as Old Testament or Hebrew Bible, and then the other New Testament. So there'd be two courses from the Christian canon, the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. And then 2 courses, Islamic text courses from TISA. So those would be those 4 total that would be required in that category. I don't know if that answered the question or not.
I think so. So there's a question, does the student apply to both schools for the joint program? Again, we talked about this at the beginning. The entry point, why don't I answer it? The entry point is the Islamic Seminary of America. You only have to fill out one application, just in case you're concerned. We'll share the application. I looked at both applications. They're very similar. And so a person of joint degree program, I might say something I didn't say is that the per course credit hour is different between the two. I think it's $665 per credit hour at United and $500 per credit hour. So that's a difference. But both institutions give substantial financial aid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Is the joint MDiv program running along with your separate programs? I'll answer that too. Our program will continue. The courses, the 6 courses count toward our MDiv as well. So I think underlying this question is what will change. Not a lot at TISA in one sense. What won't change is who hires the faculty, which will be us, right? Who pays the faculty will be us, and who launches the courses. The courses have to be approved by United, of course. They have to be on their books in order for them to give credit for it. But it's a joint endeavor. I mean, we originate the courses, we talk about them, and we look at the goals and objectives, look at their assessments, and we've already done that. We've come to pretty much a mutual agreement about that. So what will be the same is that we'll still have our faculty. What will be different is that there'll be United students in class. And the other thing that's going to be different is that you can take this degree, the coursework, fully online. Without COVID, that's not the normal state of affairs for TISA. The normal state of affairs is that our courses will meet for either a Friday and a Friday night, all day Saturday, or a Sunday night, all day Saturday night, all day Sunday, and then 10 2-hour sessions that could be an evening or weekend, and then they come back and do the same thing at the end of the term. But if the person's in the joint degree, we record and we have the ability to live stream any of our courses, whether they're in person or not, just like United does. And so what will be different is that there'll be some people in the class who, I assume United students, because these will be, these courses will become United courses. I'm correct, Dr. Roberts?
They will be available to United students, yes. They are not required for any of the United degrees, so they would be taken as electives. But I think a course like Islam in America would be a very popular course for United students to take. So I would imagine that. I would just say that United courses, all of our courses are available online. We use live streaming primarily for our online delivery. So we use Zoom like this. Our classes are, except not the webinar style, they're the regular Zoom meeting style. But all of our courses are available at a distance through Zoom, but most of them have a timed element to them. So they're 3 hours, 3-hour blocks once a week is kind of our course rhythm. We do have some hybrid course offerings as well that have the intensive 3-day intensive, but that's a smaller set of courses in our overall offerings.
Actually, these are the most questions I've gotten in these TISA talks. Next question is, can you help us find a job? Because the MDiv costs quite a bit of money. It would be important for me that the program goes beyond personal benefit and leads to a career in Islamic studies or chaplaincy. Does United and TISA help students to get internships or teaching assistantships during the program or provide other types of career support?
Yeah, and that's one of the things we've talked about, right, Dr. Jones, is
Right.
When we get to the contextual education, the internship, the CPE aspect, really partnering on that. We have a robust contextual ed internship program with an in-house leader of that who helps students find those internships, and she doesn't just do it locally. I mean, she has to do it nationally because that's our students are spread across the country. So we would partner with you all in finding those locations, whether that's in Texas or whether that's in national settings. Yeah.
And financial aid. We, even though we're new, we give a good deal of financial aid simply because we wouldn't be able we understand that a lot of people who want to do this are already doing something else, and that their career path will end up not making very much money. And so even though we don't have a lot of money, we have a very small endowment, we do, I think we are pretty good at getting financial aid. Dr. Roberts, are there particular programs that United has for financial aid you want to highlight?
Yeah, we also give for a small school a pretty substantial um, aid package to students who enroll as United students, and so students who enroll in this program will be United students, and so that the details of that I would save for conversations with our financial aid office and so forth. But yeah, just to let you know that that's a definitely something we take very seriously, is the importance of helping students get through school without too much indebtedness, too much debt, because that can be that stays with you for a long time. So
Way, that's what it
yeah,
is.
we try to help as much as we can.
All right, so we should be wrapping up. I want to ask you both, if you had to make a pitch to somebody out there listening, there seems to be several people listening, amongst Muslim students and amongst other people who are not of the Muslim faith tradition, as to why they should take this program. What pitch would you make?
Would you like to go? Am I going first?
Go
I would, well, I have. I mean, this is something that I have said to many people, that the time is now for this kind of program. And anyone who is at a life stage where they're thinking, "Ah, I want to do something else, or I want to do a new thing, or I've just been really interested in nonprofit work, chaplaincy, spiritual, more of a life goal or a career goal that's connected to my spirituality," then this is the program that people need to sign up for, because the emphasis, again, there, you're not going to find, you say this all the time, Dr. Jones, but whenever you say it, I'm nodding over here in Minnesota. You say people are not going to find people are not going to find this anywhere else. This is unique, whether it's TISA on its own, whether it's this collaboration. There is a uniqueness here that is not available anywhere else at this level, and in this goal focused, uh, very well developed and thought out program that delivers with every class, and from the beginning to the end. So I don't think anyone who signs up is ever going to be disappointed.
Dr. Roberts.
Yeah, I was just typing an answer to a question about transfer of credits. So I'll just stop midstream and just say that that's not something that we've ironed out in detail between the two institutions, but the answer is that yes, United does accept transfer credits from other regionally accredited institutions. And so, that's something that that is always on a case-by-case kind of basis, depending on what institution, what courses, and that's a conversation that Jimmy, you and I should have at some point in terms of how we think about it. Do you have thoughts about that question?
We actually had this issue come up before. I've been in higher education for 40 years, and I always remind people that acceptance of credit is always the prerogative of the accepting institution. It's not going to be automatic because you're accredited. It's not. I mean, and the other part of it is that sometimes institutions will accept from non-accredited institution if you can demonstrate that you can't get some needed body of knowledge elsewhere, which we had this with a student who came, and we transferred one of our courses, our first semester, we transferred a course to accredited institution because we made the point that we were offering a course that they could find maybe at one or two institutions at the graduate level. And And ours is very much good. This is not adult education at the graduate level in this country, and the other accredited took it. So it's something you should make the pitch, to any institution, including to United.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I just say that I really think this is an exciting opportunity. It's certainly exciting for us at United, and we would love to have as many students who are interested in the program to take advantage of it and become a part of our collaborating community. And I think that as Dr. Gray said, and I believe it, United is well positioned to be in this partnership, and we'll have some work to do. We'll have some learning to undergo, and we will do that to be as prepared as we can be in our classes, and to be as open as we can be to changing our courses, to broadening them, deepening them in other ways. So we're excited, and I really do think it's an exciting opportunity, and just love to have you contact us if you like more information about United. But certainly the application process begins with TISA, so immediate questions can be directed there.
So one thing you'll find at TISA, which is I think is probably different from United, we'll find out very quickly, is that we almost always start and end with prayer. This, when I said Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, it's a small prayer. It's a small prayer, and at the minimum, we sort of end with there's a short chapter in the Quran called Asr. It goes, "Wal as inna lisanna fi qus illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr." So, but let me just say that as a person who has done invocations at many interfaith situations, is that I don't like people to pray in a way that makes me uncomfortable, right? And I don't think people should pray in a way that makes people uncomfortable. This chapter is a chapter from the Quran that roughly translated, Dr. Gray is better than that. It's by the token of time, surely humanity is in loss except those who do good works, who believe and do good works, and exhort each other to truth, and exhort each other to patience. And to me, those are sort of universal principles. That's right. Having faith, doing good deeds, exhorting them to truth, and with each other to patience. And we'd like to end with that. And thank you, Dr. Roberts, for joining us, and Dr. Gray for joining us again. And inshallah, God willing, as we say, this will be a fruitful partnership. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for this. It's wonderful.
Assalamu alaikum.